How a single fake car sale ended up costing one dealership over $50,000. I live in a city where car prices are ridiculous compared to the next state over. You can save thousands by simply crossing the border and buying there. So every few years when it's time for a new car, I start looking in nearby states. 5 years ago, I found what looked like the perfect deal. A brand new car, exactly the model and color I wanted, listed nearly $5,000 below what every other dealer was asking. The catch? The dealership was 12 hours away, but there was a direct flight for $175 and the gas for the drive home would cost another $100 or so. Even with those expenses, I'd still save thousands. It was a no-brainer. I called the dealership, spoke with a salesman, and we went over all the details. He confirmed the price, agreed to hold the vehicle, and said all they needed was a $1,000 deposit. I offered to pay the full amount up front, but he insisted that a deposit was enough. We both signed the purchase agreement that included the car's VIN number, and I sent the money. The car was officially mine, or so I thought. 3 days later, I boarded the flight with my backpack, excitement, and plans to drive my new car home. The dealership had promised to pick me up from the airport, but after waiting nearly half an hour, no one showed. When I called, they casually told me they'd forgotten. They said I could take an Uber, and they'd reimburse me later. Annoying, but fine. When I arrived, the salesman greeted me with a big smile and asked if I wanted to look around the lot. I told him I didn't fly 12 hours to browse. I came to pick up the car I already paid a deposit on. He hesitated, then said, "Oh, that one's no longer available." I stood there for a moment, trying to process what I'd just heard. He tried to show me other similar cars, all priced much higher, some even above MSRP. When I pulled out our signed contract and pointed to the VN, he just shrugged. "That vehicle sold this morning," he said. The whole situation reeked of a setup. After a tense back and forth, I asked to speak to the general manager. He repeated the same line about how there was nothing they could do, and that I could always pick another car if I was willing to pay more. I told him I'd be leaving a review to let people know how they do business. His response: "Go ahead and leave a bad review if it makes you feel better." That was the moment I decided they'd chosen the wrong person to mess with. I left, booked a nearby hotel, and arranged a flight back home for the next morning. Between the 2 flights, Uber rides, and hotel, the entire fiasco cost me about $750. Once I got home, I sent them a demand letter for reimbursement. They ignored it. So I filed a small claims case in my state. Since the agreement was made across state lines, I was allowed to file locally. The dealership never showed up, and I won by default. A few months later, after several certified letters and phone calls, I finally received a check for $750. I thought that would be the end of it. But then I remembered the manager's words about leaving a bad review. Their Google rating at the time was around 4.5 stars, with roughly 400 reviews. Pretty respectable. I left several detailed 1-star reviews describing what happened. A few days later, I noticed most of them had disappeared, likely flagged as duplicates or reported by the dealership. So I tried a different approach. I created a new account and left a single 1-star review. Then a few days later, I did it again and again. It became a little routine, something I'd do when I had free time. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. Sometimes I'd leave 1 review, sometimes 2. Over time, their glowing reputation began to crumble. Fast forward about 3 years, I checked back out of curiosity. Their 4.5-star rating had dropped to 1.9, with over 3,500 total reviews. And the best part? I was responsible for at least half of them. Apparently, the dealership started offering customers $50 gift cards for every 5-star review to fight back. It's right on their website, a giant banner saying, "Show your review to your salesperson for a $50 Visa gift card." So let's do the math. If they paid for even 1,000 positive reviews at $50 each, that's over $50,000 spent just trying to bury the truth. And it still didn't work. Their rating continues to sink, and the bad reviews keep rolling in. As for me, I got my $1,000 deposit refunded through my credit card with no issues. Sure, I could have hired an attorney to force them to honor the original deal, but it wasn't worth the time or money. Watching their reputation collapse slowly over the years has been much more satisfying. Every once in a while, I still check their page just to see how they're doing. And if I happen to have a few spare minutes, maybe I'll add one more review to the pile.